Over the past weekend, I decided to attend CEOtaku. It was all the way up in Orlando. And while I wasn't there for the whole event, I had a blast during my time. I decided to go because I wanted to know, will I be able to enjoy an event like this as a spectator, someone who's not super competitive into fighting games? Now, I do enjoy the occasional Street Fighter when they do come out, but I'm not very competitive. I play them, I have fun with them, and I go on my merry way. But I've always wanted to see these events in person, see maybe there's a better experience of it. So I decided to pack my bags and make my trip over to Orlando, and I want to go ahead and tell you guys how my experience was. So we didn't make it on the first day, unfortunately. I had to work that day and I couldn't miss it. So I went to work, got home on Friday, and drove immediately up to Orlando for about 5 hours. It was a long drive, but we were able to crash into the hotel around 11 o'clock at night. We stayed at the Hotel Quality Inn near SeaWorld. So it was about a 10-minute drive from the venue, and it was all right. The room was kind of cozy. You know, there was not really much overhead lighting, but there was a lot of lamp lighting. So really can't complain from there. We woke up that Saturday around 10 a.m. There was no way in hell I was going to wake up early that morning, and I decided to have a Denny's Grand Slam as my breakfast. So now that we had our breakfast, we decided to go drive all the way up to the Wyndham Orlando Resort, which is where the venue was being held at. And through the entrance I went through, I guess it was through the side. It wasn't the main entrance to get, you know, your badge. So, and eventually I ended up in the front of the vendor hall, and I started asking people, hey, like, where's the badge pickup? I want to go pick up my badge. And everyone said, like, oh, well, you just got to keep walking down this corridor until you get to the front, and then you'll find your badge there. So I kept walking down this corridor, until I eventually found the sign where it says badge pickup. So I picked up my badge, and they gave me a little bit of a trinket, which I'll show you later. But instead, let me go ahead and show you the badge I got. So here's the badge. As you can see, it's a spectator badge on it, and it has a nice little QR code to see the event and see the brackets of the tournament, which I thought was really cool. And speaking about cool, I really dig these physical passes. I really dig these a lot because, for one thing, though, they're memorabilia. I like the fact that I can hang this on the wall and be like, yeah, I was a spectator for this year's event, and it was kind of cool. I really like the lanyard they give you for free, but I did mention they gave you something else, but I'm going to save that for later once I show you what I got at the event. So I decided to go down back to the vendor hall, you know, because I like to stimulate the economy on the occasion and see if anything really caught my eye. And I went to this one vendor where they had like a bunch of video game related stuff, obviously for a fighting game event, and for any video game event really. And what immediately caught my attention was that there was a lot of retro stuff, obviously Super Nintendo, Famicom, stuff like that. And I'm kind of glad I'm not into that scene anymore because it was a massive money expense at that time. But I did see one thing that really did catch my eye, though. It was a Japanese copy of Super Mario RPG. I'm super excited for the remake to come out later this year, and I was tempted to buy it, but I decided not to spend my money on that. So I looked around a little bit. Nothing immediately caught my eye, so I left that vendor. But don't worry, I do go back to that place several times to see if anything else caught my eye. But I did see another vendor that were selling something that I wanted. This person was selling a bunch of their custom merchandise, but the main thing that caught my eye was something on their table. Again, I'll show you what I got later in the video. So right next to the vendor hall, there was another event that I wanted to go to called Jabali Land. Now, if you don't know what Jabali Land is essentially a 24/7 arcade that is on free play mode, meaning you don't got to spend a single dollar, you don't got to buy tokens or nothing like that. You could just go up there, press start, and go have a blast playing the games they have on display. Now, granted, of course, because this is a fighting game event, they had a lot of Street Fighter in it. They had Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter Third Strike. They also had Street Fighter 4 there. So you definitely got a lot of fighting game selections. You even had Pokken. I know they had Marvel vs. Capcom, the first one. They also had the Darkstalkers game, essentially. But the arcade games that really caught my eye, or at least the first one that caught my eye, was a DDR Extreme. Now, DDR Extreme is one of my favorite arcade games of all time. I am dog shit at playing DDR, so immediately my thought was like, well, damn, that's a DDR machine that's on free play mode, and that's like the best thing ever. I was researching for getting a DDR pad for months on end within a budget, and no one could tell you that like the best experience to play DDR is in an arcade machine. So I thought, okay, well, free play DDR machine, let's go give that a shot. And it went not so good. Not good at all. I was winded. I was out of breath. I played horribly. I got a horrible rank, and I completely tapped out. I was awful at it, but it was kind of neat playing a DDR machine whenever I wanted to. It was on free play mode, and it was just sitting there. But another rhythm game they got was that they had a Pump It Up machine. Not my personal platform dancing game, but I definitely know of Pump It Up, just not for me, but it was cool to see it there on the side. And I think they had like another game that's not poppin' music, but similar to poppin' music. It's more like a mini game collection, but there was an arcade machine that they did have that really caught my eye, and that was Beatmania the Final. Now, Beatmania is basically the grandfather of the Beatmani series, which also falls under DDR. Ever since I saw KK Clue's video of Beatmania, at least the history of it, it really got me interested in trying this game. My arcade down the street from me does have the sequel series, Beatmania 2DX, on their setup, and it was kind of cool. Like, it was neat, but I wanted to play one of the older OG series Beatmania machines, because I always heard these games were not perfect. They were great, and they have great style, but they also were full of jank, which I'll mention later. And I thought, like, okay, this is cool, like a OG Beatmania machine. Granted, it's one of the later mixes, but I wanted to play that machine. So I get to the machine, and I'm trying to select the music, and this is when I noticed that something was off about this game, was that when you're in the song selection, like, think about any rhythm game you ever played, Guitar Hero, Dance Dance Revolution, Osu, Groove Coaster even. Every rhythm game I could think of on the top of my head, when you're selecting a track, it would at least play a preview of the track, letting you know, like, hey, is this song kind of your thing, or you're just, browsing along? The game doesn't do that. It literally plays the same track over and over and over again. And I don't know if it was because the speakers are blown out. I looked up emulation of the game to see that it sounds right, and it turns out that it was that. The Beatmania's track, it sounded really off to me, where it sounded like it was like Falco from Star Fox on the Super Nintendo. It's like over and over and over, and it drove me nuts. Like, I was like, okay, the only reason I'm able to select these songs is either because I recognize the title, or I think they would sound kind of cool to play. Granted, I couldn't really hear the music because you had like 3 other rhythm games playing in the background, really distracting you, but it was kind of cool. I spent a decent amount of time playing that Beatmania machine. So I played a lot of Beatmania, but I also went and checked out the other games they had on the other side of the arcade. And, they had Capcom vs. SNK 2, which is easily one of my top 5 favorite fighting games of all time. They had that Marvel vs. Capcom machine I mentioned earlier. They also had a House of the Dead machine, a stand-up Crazy Taxi, which is pretty good. And the one game that really caught my eye, and if it wasn't for a rhythm game I was playing, it was JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Heritage for the Future. I love this game. It is far from balanced, very, very far from balanced, but that's kind of the charm of it. And it was just sitting there. And I thought, well, damn, I could play this game with other people. Because I played a lot of this game on Fightcade. Like, I still play this game on Fightcade a ton. So it was pretty cool. I spent a decent amount of time there playing as my main character, Young Joseph. Really cool. But after a while, I was like, okay, let me go check out the actual competition. I want to see people competing. So I walked around to several ballrooms. There was 3 main ballrooms. One was more for like the niche fighting games. They had like Skullgirls. I think they had Dragon Ball Fighters there at one point, or it might have been in one of the ballrooms. They moved around a lot throughout this event. And I checked out there. I went to further down past the bigger ballroom, and I went straight to the second biggest one where they had MK1 playing a lot. Now, MK1 looks really dope. I might actually consider picking up MK1 because I saw a lot of the competition for that game, and it was really cool. They also had like a bunch of niche fighting games. I noticed they're playing Persona 4 Arena, Melty Blood, a lot of like obscure fighting games that even I don't even know. And it was kind of cool. Like, it was kind of neat, like seeing people play in a more of a competitive setting and not on online matches, just in person with their sticks, right? So I checked out a little bit. In fact, you might even see me on the streams of the MK1 and the Street Fighter 6 that I'm in the background. But mainly, I spent most of my time in the main ball watching Street Fighter 6 competition. I ran into my boy Tyson. It was a pleasant surprise. He was the only guy I knew at the place at all. I was completely by myself, but I met a lot of cool people at the event. A lot of cool people, and I'll even give you some tips for socializing there from fucking shut-in like me. So I went to the event, and I watched a lot of Street Fighter 6. Now, mind you, before I went to this event, I didn't play Street Fighter 6, at least the final release. I played the beta, but I didn't play the release. I bought the game at launch, haven't touched it, and ever since I went to this event, I immediately started playing Street Fighter 6. So that's pretty much what I did for the most part. I went back and forth between watching the event, going to the arcade, playing some games, and then later going to the vendor hall and see if anything else caught my eye, which I did buy a couple more things, which we'll get to later on the final day. So I went back to the arcade one more time, and there was a game that caught my eye. It was this giant touch screen with two of them. There was like two touch screens, like gigantic, right? And I didn't know what it was called. It was all Japanese. All I saw was that it was a touch-based rhythm game, which, you know, if you played like Osu or Elite Beat Agents, this is, you know, very commonplace. And I was like, okay, let me give this game a shot. So I give this game a shot, and again, I still didn't know the name. Like, I didn't know the name. I had to Google it, and the only thing I went off on that it was made by Bandai, and so I Googled Bandai rhythm game, and the game is called Synchronia. Very basic. Again, I really just going to give you the basic fundamentals of Osu if you guys don't know what that is. Basically, it's a rhythm game where you tap the screen in tune with the music. Now, I played a lot of Toho music, a lot of Vocaloid music, and it was pretty fun. Like, I had a real fun time with it. In fact, that also got me into playing more Osu. So that's pretty much what I did for the most part. I just went back and forth between these three things: going to the arcade, going to the vendor hall, see if anything else caught my eye, and then going to see the competition and supporting my boy Tyson, or just watching the event itself. So on the final day, we got there around noon. I stayed there until around 5 o'clock. I was not planning on staying there super late because, mind you, while I was there on Sunday, I had to be home by Monday morning. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to stay super late. I'm going to leave around like 5 o'clock. I stayed up to top 8 of Street Fighter 6, which was pretty cool. And afterwards, I decided to go home, and all I could say was that it was a fantastic experience. I would definitely do this again, with the caveat that I highly recommend you go with friends. Assuming that this venue is not like down the street from your house, you're gonna pay a pretty penny, like having to pay for getting housing. Obviously, that's really the expensive part. The ticket to go to this event was not very expensive, far from it. It's considering that how late I bought my ticket, it's pretty crazy compared to like going to pay for an anime convention ticket or something, right? So I went back to the vendor hall and I did make my final purchases just to make sure, because I did catch something on the previous day and say, hey, I think I saw something I really want to get, but it kind of sat on me for a while. I'm like, okay, if I go back tomorrow and it's still there, I'll pick it up. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about the things that I did get at the venue. So the first thing I bought was actually, let me take it out of my bag here, was this Sonic plush. I saw him. He looked adorable. I think he is very, you know, for one thing, though, he's very easy to prop up against anything at this point. I wanted a Sonic plush. Thought he was kind of cool, kind of cute. Said, fuck it, why not buy him? So I got the Sonic plush, which I'll just put him over there. But let me go ahead and tell you my other purchases that I made. So when I went back to that gaming vendor they had, I didn't see on the side it had some plushies on the wall. They had plushies on the corner, but I didn't see plushies on the side, right? And I really didn't see anything that really caught my eye. Of course, they had like your Pokemon and stuff like that. But what I did saw was these little fellas. Immediately what caught my attention was this is a red mage from Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV is easily one of my favorite games of all time. I still love Final Fantasy XIV. Check out my video of how I got into Final Fantasy XIV. I'll put it in the link in the description. But this red mage caught my attention. I love the red mage aesthetic, even though I don't play red mage. I haven't even started the class yet. This little red mage plushie really caught my attention because, I mean, look at it. It's dapper as fuck. I like this guy a lot. I mean, look at him. He's adorable. So I went ahead and I saw this thing, but I didn't know what it was. All I knew that it had was, I think it didn't have the 14. No, it was all I know was that it was based on Taito and it was licensed by Square Enix, and it does have the Final Fantasy XIV tag. I don't think you guys can see it on the camera, but I never heard of these before. But I really like the aesthetic of it. So I was like, I went home that night on the second day, and it kind of sat on me like, should I buy these? So initially they wanted $35 per. Actually, you know what? Not only did I buy this though, I also bought a Scholar. Scholar is planned to be my healing class in 14. Again, haven't even picked up Scholar yet, but I really like the Scholar look a lot. And initially they wanted 35 per plushie, but I negotiated out like, hey, can we just do 2 for 60 and that way, and I'll just take these 2 out of your hands. They also had a couple more. I know they had a Paladin, not a Dark Knight, a Warrior. I think it was based on the Heavensward outfit. I'll put some pictures on display right here. But I really like these plushies. They're really cute. I love Final Fantasy 14, but I don't really have a lot of 14 memorabilia. So for me, this was a nice little compromise, a Scholar and a Red Mage plush. So I just got to figure out where am I going to put them here in the room. So let's get them out of the way. So the final thing that I mentioned was that this was included for free with my badge, again, because this event was being promoted or sponsored by Arc System Works, which is the guys who make, you know, the Dragon Ball Z Fighters, Guilty Gear, you know, those games. They promoted this, and one of the cool things they gave for free was this Guilty Gear board game demo deck. Now, I didn't even know there was a Guilty Gear card game in the first place. In fact, I never opened this. In fact, I purposely kept this sealed just because I wanted to open it on camera. So with that, let's actually do that right now. I'm actually curious to see how this will look. Let me see if I could try to open this. Let's go ahead and open this up. I'm really interested. I'm not really much into Guilty Gear myself. Like, I really like Guilty Gear's music. I'll give it that. But I've never been really interested in picking up Guilty Gear Strive. It looks cool, but not really in any particular rush to pick it up. So it says right here, rise above the rest, show your skill, and slash the competition. Experience Guilty Gear like never before. Challenge your friends on the go. Are you ready to fight? Thrilling and skillful 1v1 combat that every Guilty Gear fan will love. Enjoy the breathtaking art of Guilty Gear at your fingertips. Honestly, that's probably one of the bigger things I'm actually looking forward to this, is actually just watching, just looking at the Guilty Gear artwork. I saw some people play this in the arcade room. Oh, shit. This is a fucking deck box? Bro, this comes with... Wait, hold on. Is this a deck? No. I don't think so. Hold on. I'm going to put this to the side. Wow, they really put all the cards like that? Oh, wow. They give you a big old stack. So, I'll tell you what. I'm going to film myself going individually with the cards, but this is essentially the deck they give you. It looks like there's a little QR code in the back if you want to go ahead and read up the rule book. So I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. I'll look at this later. I'll show some footage of me showing off the cards. And this looks like it's the play mat. So it's kind of similar like when you buy a structure deck with Yu-Gi-Oh! Where they always give you like a little paper play mat, just so at least you could get an idea of the game. So the only people I know who also picked this up are people who went to the event. So I asked Tyson if he has his cards, and maybe we'll do something with this. This looks kind of cool, but this is the little mat they give you, a little paper mat. That's not surprising. If you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! This is kind of commonplace for you to have. So that is pretty neat. There's more stuff here? Hold on. Check this out. Okay, so they give you some tokens. I guess these are for flipping. Okay, so there's Hell and Heaven on them. So these are little tokens they give you in a little baggie. I don't know much about Guilty Gear as far as like the characters aside from Bridget and the Totsugeki girl. I forgot her. Is it May? There we go. May. There we go. I know Soul Bad Guy because that's funny as shit to me. And there's Kai Kisuke. I don't know if you guys, maybe you Guilty Gear fans out there are foaming at the mouth like, what the fuck is this idiot talking about? So this must be the cards. When you're hit after hit effects here, let me just show you the card is here. So I'll go ahead and put some of the display later on, some of the unpackaging. So I'll go ahead and just leave that here. So this was kind of cool. This was given for free. Like, I thought this was completely neat. I wasn't expecting a Guilty Gear card game included with my trip to CEOtaku, but it was pretty cool. It was definitely a cool event. Now, to wrap up this video, I'm going to go ahead and give you what I would do differently if I went to these events. So what I would do differently is that I would have definitely brought my arcade stick. I was... put it lightly, like a pussy. I thought I was going to get demolished. I thought everybody was going to kick my ass. And don't get me wrong, I got my ass beat in the JoJo fighting game. But I also kicked ass too, so I think it all worked out in the end. And definitely would have brought my arcade stick. Just bring your arcade stick because there's no controllers. Unless you're going to buy a controller at the vendor hall and start playing, you need to bring your own shit. And from what I saw, there was a lot of empty setups. Like, it was not a situation where you didn't have a place to put anything. If there was a monitor out there and you could set something up, it practically was yours. Now, granted, with massive disclosure, I'm not sure. Maybe that's right. Maybe you're not supposed to do that. Take that with a grain of salt. But definitely bring something to play, or at least bring a controller or bring your stick or whatever. I have my Alpha stick in the back right now in the camera, so it's off view right now. But definitely started playing with that a lot more. I bought that for Street Fighter 6, but I barely touched it. But now I'm getting back into playing it. So definitely bring that. Bring a controller, bring a stick. If you could bring a console or setup, I mean, you wouldn't have to worry. If you're going to be playing Street Fighter, don't worry. Every fucking console has Street Fighter. You're set. If you're going to play MK1, don't worry. Almost all the systems had MK1. If you found the setup, you could play something, right? But let me give you guys a little bit of a social advice. So, while I was buying the 14 plushies, I ran into these guys, right? And we hit it off. We got ourselves. We mentioned our names and stuff like that. And one of the most efficient ways for you to share details, or at least share your contacts, is what I recommend you to do is that I bought this like months ago, and I thought I was never going to get my money's worth out of this, but this event proved it wise. So this is an NFC tag. What I did is that I put this to link with my link tree. So essentially what it does is that once you tap this card, like any NFC card, it will open up a web page saying, hey, this is my link tree where it has my Twitter, my Discord, my everything you need to follow me. This will save you a lot of time when you're getting to meet people. If you just want them to just know where you are, your Discord, just tap them with this little card right here. Get an NFC card on Amazon. They sell packs of these for like pennies on the dollar. Highly recommend it. You will definitely make it a great way to just share contact information, because you know you can't reliably depend on memory, or you can't even rely on them adding you on the spot, because maybe the network could be spotty. So something like this was definitely something I recommend. You can just keep it in your wallet, tap your phone on it, and you're set to go. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and wrap this video. I had a blast. It definitely was an eye-opening experience. Would I go again? Absolutely, but with some caveats though. I was lucky to go with my family. My family was cool enough to just be like, hey, we're going to let you go do your thing. We're going to go do our thing, which is how I like to do things. Oh, and I forgot to mention the other merchandise I bought. I wanted to buy something a little bit more to commemorate the event. I bought this CEOtaku shirt. They had another design that I kind of wanted, but it unfortunately sold out. And here, let me show you the back. It does have the CEOtaku logo in the back as well. It unfortunately didn't have the main design one I want, but I got this one. And honestly, looking back on it, I actually kind of like this one a little bit more. Definitely more Final Fantasy VII inspired. As you can tell, this was the 7th anniversary, or the 7th event of this particular event. So it was kind of cool. I had a blast with that. And all I could say is that I highly recommend it if you're a super casual, or you just want to know about it. Maybe want to play some people know a little bit more about the game, because everyone was willing to give you advice, like every minute. If you were playing a game, everybody was super friendly. Everyone's like, hey, you could do this, you could do that. Great time, great people to be around. Now, going back to the initial point, would I do it again? I definitely would, but under some circumstances. One, definitely go with people. Go with some people that are also interested in going to the event, because it is going to be expensive to get a room to one of these events. Even at the venue, or even near the venue, you're going to have to spend a little bit of a change. So definitely go with people. Save the money, go with people. Bring your setup, bring anything. I mean, honestly, looking back on it, I think if I had a Steam Deck and a Steam Dock all lined up for me, bro, I could play whatever the fuck I want. It would have been amazing. And just overall have a good time. Have a very, very good time. So I don't want to ramble anymore. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely want to get your take on this. Would you guys be down for more content like this? I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for everyone who's been tuning in lately. And thank you, and have a good night. See ya.